That's interesting. And it kind of demonstrates, and I don't know if you even would want to go on this tangent, but we were talking a little bit before the show, and I've emphasized how you're thinking from this first principles thinking, and we'd been talking. I've not talked with another guest about this, but it's something I'm interested in for anybody who knows me, is like that blockchain space. And I know you've had experience there. This doesn't really have to do with, maybe it does have more to do with the development group than I think, but I know that's a fascination of yours as well.
Yeah. I think new types of technologies are always really interesting to look into and see, what's going to be next and how is that going to potentially improve efficiency or not. And I think blockchain is an area where, if it's connected to real estate in the right way, can make a lot of sense to improve efficiency and allow different projects to happen in a smart way. We'll see how that kind of plays out, and I'm not totally sure if that'll have any applicability to Gateway South or not. I think hopefully at some point it does. It's not part of the, like first phase or second phase, if you will, or whatever plan. But I do think that space is going to see a ton of growth. And I think that with any new technology, it takes some time for adoption. With blockchain particularly, it's somewhat of a, regulations required. There are a set of changes required from the regulation standpoint, which I think we'll probably see in the near future that'll allow that to see a lot of adoption. But it's a really interesting space to look into and see, like, what are the possibilities.
Yeah.
If you think about, like, title to a property, in a sense, that's sort of like a blockchain.
Right. Yeah, it's a ledger. Yeah.
Of who owned the thing. So
it's called chain of title.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
exactly.
is kind of funny.
Now, I think Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies have been kind of the core focus of blockchain to date. I think that will probably shift over time.
Yeah.
And I think there are some really interesting use cases that can take place. Currently, it's not something I'm focusing on necessarily, but I think over time there are some ways to really improve, again, like the efficiency of ownership and the ability to create things using something like a blockchain is, in essence, like a form of a contract.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where my fascination came into is I had actually done some like Zoom interviews with people a couple years back. Like one of them was with this company Proppy, and their whole mission is to put all residential deeds on chain and to help make the real estate home sale much more efficient.
Yeah.
And then T0 was another group I had spoken with, and they're the ones who tokenized and listed Aspen Digital, which was the St. Regis, and now those tokens, the basically shares of that real estate trade on that platform, kind of like a stock.
Yep.
So there's those first few things, and there was a lot of talk about them for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, because Bitcoin's the main focus, the price drops, and all of a sudden people aren't paying attention anymore. But
and I think the regulation side of it is one of the big factors into how useful those tools can be. And as that shifts, I think more and more stuff will end up heading into that sort of a direction. The same way, like, the internet, when that started, every business and company didn't have a website necessarily.
Right.
But now it's, very, typical. In fact, if you don't have a website, it'd be, very weird.
Yeah.
So I think blockchain will have that same sort of an effect. And my take would be that it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when it happens. So definitely a really interesting space to think about and get into, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll be one of those people who I'll be calling like every few months just to, let's get a lay of the land.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Because it's such an interesting space to track, and to your point with the regulation, lack of clarity, and just the process it takes. Like I know somebody was tokenizing a development down in Dallas, and he was like, look, it would be a lot cheaper and easier for us to go the traditional way, but we're just trying to prove proof of concept.
Yeah.
And most people are like, we don't care to spend that money and time just to prove this we'll let you go first. And once it's all established, we'll join the game. But that'll be interesting to kind of track.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting use case for sale real estate.
Yeah.
Where if you can trade, right now owning a home or a condo unit or whatnot, it's a very liquid asset. If you can turn that into a much more liquid asset, that can add a lot of value. And also I think, the potential for crowdfunding projects,
right,
where sales of tokens can equate to like ownership stake in a project, is a really interesting use case for blockchain. And maybe even over time having some form of payment or for the workforce or people building a project, having some stake in the project they're building, and it really can hopefully align the interests of somebody working on something to the ownership stake in something, which can improve efficiency a bunch. How that plays out to come into existence, we'll see. But I think there's a ton of opportunity there.
Yeah, that liquidity concept has been kind of the main thing I've thought about, but that is very interesting in terms you'd be redefining sweat equity with if it's construction and part of almost like how people have stock options in companies. If you're,
it's like IPOing a building.
Yeah, right. Oh, I'm excited to keep up with you on that.
Yeah.